By the way, this for the whole season. There's no need to get twisted. I still think you're super cool. I've watched The Star Beast now around 5 times, and I don't think you can review an episode like this without pointing out what Russell T Davies had to accomplish with The Star Beast. First, he had to reclaim Doctor Who, preferably to the levels when he left it. We know what Doctor Who had become. We know what happened to the show. Nobody was watching it. Barely anyone cared about it, aside from being pissed at it. The best the fan base could get twisted about was the whole Yaz Doctor will they won't they thing. Some people dropped out and became trolls because the Doctor was a girl, but most of us were excited about it at the beginning because this was new. This was going to be exciting. It was going to be great to have a female Doctor. But then the show gave us nothing to be excited about except lore changing events that ended up making the entire show worse if you put any thought into it. The flux didn't save it, the ratings were in the toilet, and nobody cared about it anymore. The BBC even considered taking it off the air again, but then along came RTD. So he had to reclaim Doctor Who. And he had to re-engage a fan base that had stopped watching. He needed to introduce the Doctor to a Disney audience and use 3 specials to get people interested enough to watch the first black gay Doctor after watching the first woman Doctor be failed by the last showrunner. He needed to justify bringing back David Tennant and Catherine Tate and risk damaging what is considered to be the best departure story of a companion of all time, Classic Who included. I'm sure there was a lot more writing on this episode that I'm missing or I don't know about, but that right there is plenty. And in accomplishing these things, I feel like RTD mostly succeeded. There are definitely some warts here, but let's start with the things that worked. David Tennant and Catherine Tate. Mwah! Chef's kiss. Actually, the whole main cast. Not you, Jamie.
Jamie!
Rose, Mama Noble, Sean, all of you, on point. I liked and cared about all of them. And by cared about them, I mean I didn't want them to die, which is a pretty hard thing to do in 40 minutes.
Oh, here we go again.
Are they all fleshed out and amazing? No. But RTD knows how to get you to relate to them on a personal level and understand that they are fundamentally good people. Rose being bullied, the dead naming, the misgendering by her own family, all of that was relevant to understanding Rose's character. And her identity plays a huge role in the climax of the story. I thought she was way more relevant to this story than later on, when I'm not really certain why her presence would even be needed at Unit, but we'll talk about that later. The Meep. This thing was great. I loved the practical effects. Look how happy this guy is. And yeah, I knew about the Meep comic prior to the show, but how they pulled it off was Disney money well spent. The look of the show I thought was fantastic. Incredibly cinematic shots, graphics that didn't look like some YouTuber picked up editing software yesterday and started screwing around with the show. This thing looked gorgeous. Now, it maybe for other shows on Netflix, like Stranger Things or something like that, it's meh, but for a Doctor Who fan, this is high quality. I liked the Meep's heel turn. I always loved the whole villain is just misunderstood. If someone would only talk to them trope that Doctor Who does. And I love that this is the reverse of that. Miriam Margolyes does a fantastic job playing both sides of the Meep. It's a lot of fun even to go back and see where the Meep is manipulating Rose and Doctor with its cuteness. And they're just eating it up. Speaking of the Rorth Warriors. These warriors look creepy, they look campy and scary for little kids. Again, it's great design work. It's great to see Doctor Who do these types of practical effects, considering the history of the show, and I hope that they keep it coming. I liked the fan service. This was a 60th anniversary, and hey, I'm human. I like that stuff. I like this.
A master of the knowledge.
That's his grand mistress.
Oh, catch up.
I like it when he said the thing.
And let's Ozzy.
I love this.
Word of advice. You can wear a suit that tight up to the age of 35 and no further.
All of it was great. If you can't like fan service in a 60th anniversary, I don't know what's wrong with you. In fact, I don't think there was enough fan service in this show. Let's talk about things I didn't like. We're going to talk about the less important stuff in a second. And let's just go ahead and address the elephant in the room. Let's address the big thing that this episode had to do for fans like me. Donna's ending back in series 4 is tragic and important. It isn't often that the Doctor loses a companion to death, and while Donna didn't die, the thing that completed her as a person did. Donna's entire arc is that up until the Doctor, she never meets her potential. She's always dreaming of doing something more, of being something important, but she's always missing it, or the world is taking it from her. When we meet her, she's being taken advantage of by her coworkers, by her fiance. She's browbeaten by her mom. And most tragic, she is very well aware of how unspecial she is. And that's a tough realization on anybody, and it's incredibly relatable. How many of us ever actually do anything of significance? And when you realize that, it knocks your self-esteem for big loops as you trudge through life just trying to get through. But then Donna meets the Doctor, and her life has changed, and she's no longer insignificant. She sees things and does things that no person has ever done, and no person will ever do again. She has an entire alien race, the Ood, that sings songs about her. This brash office drone that looks like she comes straight from central casting becomes the most important person in the world, and she saves it. She takes on a Time Lord mind. She becomes the Dr. Donna. I still hate that. I've always hated that. But she saves the world at a terrible cost. The Doctor hides her memories to save her life, and she cannot ever remember her time on the TARDIS, or the things that she did, or the songs that are being sung about her. And if that wasn't enough, they throw in the most likable grandpa of all time and make him cry to really sell you on the gravity of this point. It's a masterclass in awesome storytelling. And I love it. And I don't want them to mess it up. It is rare in Doctor Who when a storyline has consequences. Really, rarely does the Doctor ever not save the day enough to ensure that those that are close to him are not impacted. But this time not. And it mattered, man. It mattered. Look, you can face the Raven, you can get touched by an angel, you can get trapped in another dimension all you want, but Donna's loss hits hard, and it's generally very loved and well regarded as a storyline. So if you're gonna undo that, you're gonna need to do it with care and love. And while this scene had a lot of emotion, watching the Doctor react as he's gotta bite the bullet here, and Winter Soldier, her Time Lord mind awake, I still don't know how I feel about that. The problem was, it only really carried the weight of that previous storyline because the resolution of this one plays out way too quickly and is too easily fixed. I was kind of hoping that the resolution was going to play out over the 3 specials, with the Toymaker being the one to awaken Donna and the Doctor having to sacrifice himself to save her, and then regenerating into Chudi. Obviously that didn't happen. I do think it was a missed opportunity though, because whether you did my fan fiction or not, to make an easy resolution or a quick resolution to something that was given the amount of weight that Donna's memories being taken away for her was just not that fantastic, and I didn't like it. One of the reasons why Hellbent is not well liked as an episode is because of the weight that is given to Clara's death being the resolution to her arc of becoming kind of like the Doctor, or trying to become like the Doctor, and then the grief that he endures in Heaven Sent. All of that is completely undone by her continuing on in the last second of her life with me. And hey, thanks RTD for throwing some divisive political stuff into my very first episode review. I was hoping to have at least one video before all the hate comments, but let's just talk about it. Honestly, the non-binary result of the shared Time Lord consciousness being the reason why Donna's brain doesn't melt was an interesting way around it. I really thought that the passing on of the Time Lord consciousness through childbirth and having Rose be the one to save the day by working the magic important console left outside with no one guarding it was rushed. But if this was going to be the one episode where you were going to address Donna's impending death, then I guess it worked. But let's talk about the shake it off part. Look, I'm gonna be careful because I don't want to be canceled, but if female presenting Time Lords could just shake off powerful Time Lord essence or whatever, one wonders why 14 didn't remember how to do this, or at least to instruct Donna and Rose how to do it. Most iterations of the Doctor are presented as retaining the memories of the previous one, and it makes no sense that a female human would instinctually know how to do this while the apparent oldest and only Time Lord left would not. I don't like this. Not because but because it sucks and it makes no sense. For me, it just cheapens Donna's ending. It doesn't ruin it. I still think that it was a great ending and wrap up to her arc, but knowing that the resolution is out there doesn't hold as much weight as it used to. All right, that's out of the way. Let's move on to some other stuff that wasn't as important. First of all, what the heck was this opening? I already praised the rest of the episode for how it looked, but there are still a few examples of typical Doctor Who special effect head scratchers. This one is the worst offender. I've personally turned in enough last minute assignments that I did not work that hard on before to know what that looks like. I find it weird that they didn't just do a previously on Doctor Who or replay a montage of these moments. And hey, I commend you for going the extra mile here, but yikes, a little effort. Fun fact, I decided to show some people Doctor Who for the very first time when the Star Beast aired, and this was the very first impression they got of the show. It could have been worse. They could have seen Space Babies first. Even David Tennant giving it his all could not save this. I didn't like Unit much in this episode. I don't really know the purpose of having Chief Science Officer Shirley Bingham in the episode is, other than to give a reason as to why this crash landing was actually a regular landing somehow. Blow holes in the wall and say the word jammy.
There's a word for you, Doctor, and that word is jammy.
Oh, and she's there to listen to the Doctor tell her the exact same thing that he said during the terrible green screen opening, making it a very redundant scene that wasn't needed.
Because if Donna ever remembers me, she will die. She will die.
I didn't like the most powerful sonic screwdriver of all time. At first, when the Doctor is doing the Tony Stark thing, I went a little cerebral. I started thinking, what if this is what the Doctor actually sees whenever they're waving that thing around and they're reading something that they scan? And then we find out immediately that it's real and that he could create things out of thin air using sonic waves or whatever, and he could block alien and human bullets with a sonic wall that we never saw before or again, and that it could teleport people. And I thought, dang, this must be new because the Doctor could have used this so many times. I really hope the 7th Doctor gets this sonic screwdriver whenever he bi-generates so that he can walk the streets of San Francisco safely. Things I didn't understand. Why did the Doctor respond like this when he thought it was the other Rose?
Would you care for some tea?
This is not, if I only had a few more moments, I could have said those 3 words. This is the look of a guy that trapped his crazy ex in a different dimension, and when she got free, gave her a mortal clone of himself so she would never come back. Why did reversing the polarity of the neutron flow or whatever fix cracking the very surface of the planet? Extras being extra. This lady was off the charts on trying to get us to notice her. In every instance in this universe, an alien crash landing has never led to anything good, and yet she's over here snapping pictures for Insta, then completely losing interest once the show is over. Actually, this is pretty on point for the world building in Doctor Who. Enjoy your Extra Being Extra Award of the Week. This episode had a lot to accomplish in a short amount of time, and while I think it was fun and it does a commendable job pulling off much of what it intends to do, it took the easy way out, and it farted out a middling resolution to one of its best storylines, and it's a shame. But I'll tell you this, it is an insane improvement over what preceded it. And while I didn't like how easy it was to resolve one of my favorite storylines of the show, I'm pretty sure I wasn't going to like it either way, because I didn't want them to resolve that storyline. But compared to what had come previously, it's just nice to see a resolution that makes sense. All that said, I give The Star Beast a 7 out of 10 salt shakers. It was funny and campy, and being able to see both David Tennant and Catherine Tate back again was a treat. Brought me back in time, man, and it was fun. Oh yeah, and I expect that Mrs. Flood is the Meeps boss. I want to thank you for getting to the end of this video, and if you enjoyed anything at all, I do hope you like it and give Salty Ham a try. Next week, we'll take on Special 2, Wild Blue Yonder. Until then, stay salty, my friends. Seriously, look how stupid this is. That was going to be complicated. Oh no, that kid's gonna die.
Come and see the violence inherent in the system! Help! Help! I'm being repressed! They fly now!